Hello and welcome to Rockies Recap, a part of the Rockies Now podcast network. My name is Steven. Right here is co-host Tom. Our first Rockies series recap. Instead of doing the daily Rockies recaps, we decided to try this out just to make things a little bit easier for both of us because sometimes it's difficult to do, a game every single night and talk about it. And when you have work in the morning or you're just like dead tired, you just don't want to talk at all. So we decided just to switch this up and just like kind of enjoy this a little bit more. Tom, it's been at least a fortnight. If I don't know what that means, but it's been a while since we were last, talking to each other. I think since we did our last podcast back, I think in the middle of April. But Tom, how you doing?
I'm good. We had a little bit of a heavy rain here in Chicago, but the White Sox were able to play. Other than that, both my teams are not doing really, really well. We're at the bottom of baseball, but who knows? I'm still happy and optimistic, and not optimistic about the season, but optimistic about the future.
Yeah, I got a couple people in the DMs on Instagram. They were like, "Man, I feel bad for Tom because he has to cheer for the White Sox and the Rockies, like the two worst teams in baseball." And I'm like, "Yeah, make sure you're sending your RIPS to Tom, in the DMs." But yeah, I mean, and again, this is not going to be a podcast. We're just going to talk about the Giants series here. But next week, make sure you guys stay tuned. And by the way, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And not to mention on Instagram, as you can see in the ticker below, we are almost at 4,000 followers. And I think we're about to hit 3,900. So that's pretty cool. So make sure if you don't follow us on Instagram, make sure to hit that follow button on there at Rockies Now. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you're subscribe to YouTube for more Rockies recaps and our podcasts and much more content coming this year for Rockies Now. But yeah, getting started with game one, which was I believe Thursday. Wait, no, today's Thursday. Duh. It's I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, my days are all mixed up here. So yeah, Rockies got shut out 5-0. That was a pretty miserable game. It was cold. A lot of people, I mean, I don't know if you can see in the picture here, folks, but like a lot of people were bundled up. Not a lot of fans showed up, obviously, because of the cold weather, and plus the team is not playing very well. Yeah, Doyle went 0 for 4. A lot of like 0 for 4s or 1 for 4s. Really, it was just again a miserable game all around. The Rockies only had, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 hits and no runs. The pitching was, Ty Black wasn't bad. 1 earned run through 3 innings, 2 strikeouts. Nick Mears, he bounced back after struggling over the last few series, dating back to, I think, the Mexico series. Tyler Kinley, he's starting to pitch well, but the ERA is pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, all around, this was a bad game. And then Kyle Harrison, he's having a nice start to the year. He's 3-1. He got a couple strikeouts, a couple of walks. So at least the Rockies lowered the strikeout rate there, but they've still struggled with that this year. Dakota Hudson, you got to feel bad for the guy because I feel like he's got no offense to back him up this year, and most of his, if not all of his starts, yeah, like 5 hits isn't bad. I mean, the problem was for Hudson is because he threw so many pitches. I think he hit like 70 pitches by the 3rd inning. And he just ran out of gas too early. 5 walks. That's an issue. Again, I mean, it wasn't a huge offensive game. According to this, I don't think they had any home runs. It was just basically small ball, like singles, ground outs, that sort of thing. So it wasn't a miserable game in terms of like blowout, but in terms of like the offense and everything, it just wasn't a fun game. And so it was just overall, it was just another Rockies loss, if you want to call it that, to start the series.
Yeah, not your ideal start to a series. It was a cool day. Obviously, it wasn't rigidly cold, but it was just not unbearable. It was bearable, but not unbearable, if that makes any sense. It was just basically for everybody on terms. It was the Kyle Harrison show. The Rockies just couldn't figure him out. He didn't strike. He only had 2 strikeouts and navigated around 2 walks to pitch 7 innings of shutout baseball. I was it was nice to see Jung Ho Lee get 3 hits for the Giants. He's off to a tough start for them, considering he was a big international free agent signing for them. So I guess in some sense it's good to see him get 3 hits in the game. But overall, like I said, I think I've commented this before. You're just going to have a lot of those games where you just can't figure out the opposing team starting pitcher. And I do feel bad for Dakota Hudson really this year. He's had really good starts, then he's had only 1 or 2 really bad starts. He's still searching for his first win, but I think just like how Cal Quantrill's been a good fit for the Rockies so far, I think Dakota Hudson is going to figure out eventually. He is a veteran who has been through struggles in the past, especially during his days during St. Louis. We'll see. I'm not losing hope on I'm not losing any hope on him, any confidence in him at anytime soon.
Hmm. All right, let's go to game 2 here. And that's one nice thing. Again, I told Tom right before we started in the private room before we started. It's nice to have ESPN. Like MLB is fine, but this is kind of nice where you can just like immediately jump to the next game, especially if it's a series. This game, Giants won 8-6. It started out as like, oh no, not another, it was a 6-run inning. Obviously, it was in the second inning, and it was just like, oh boy, here we go again. Michael Conforto, who had a pretty poor season last year in his first season with the Giants.
Mhm.
I think it was last year. It was first season.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just it was bad all around. But now he's starting to get hot. He already has. Well, he hit a home run yesterday, and now he has another one, which I think he has like 7 or 8 home runs now in the year. He's been one of their best players, if not their best player, to start the year. Offensively for the Rockies, again, slow start. Yeah, right here, 1 run in the second that came off of a Brenton Doyle wild pitch. He was able to score from third base. I think he got a triple, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah, I mean, like the nice thing is the Rockies pitching kind of stopped them at this point. After the third inning, they put up a few zeros here and there. And I mean, for the rest of the game, their pitching was a lot better compared to what it was going to look like early in the game because it was falling apart. Um, One thing I did like is that the Rockies were able to up Hicks' pitching count. He was pitching at one point pretty well. He did get 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, but the Rockies were able to get at him a little score here. Yeah, Blackman single. Diaz got an infield hit. Blackman got another, Blackman, he got another hit in the 6th. And so, yeah, talking about Blackman too, because I feel like we haven't seen him in the lineup in like a long time. And so that's kind of nice to see that Blackman's starting to get out of that rut because I feel like ever since a few weeks ago, he's been hitting like 220, 230, and that's very not Charlie Blackman esque. And so that was, nice to see him get some knocks there yesterday. Went 2 for 4. Diaz went 2 for 4 with that home run in the 9th inning. I think that made it a 2-run game there. Sean Bouchard, 3 for 4. I think he got a double. So yeah, I mean, Sean Bouchard, I like him. He's been kind of quiet. He hasn't done much. I think he has a home run though. But Sean Bouchard has been quietly good for the Rockies. Has been one of their better hitters. Hunter Goodman, unfortunately, he's not doing so well. Hitting under 100, 0 for 4, striking out quite a bit. And I mentioned to Tom earlier too, is that it's I know a lot of us really want to see Hunter Goodman in the lineup. And it's because the Rockies are the worst team in baseball right now. They need to play some of these young players, but the problem is it's kind of difficult to do that because would you rather have a guy like Sam Bouchard playing right field who's went 2 for 3 or 2 for 4, 3 for 4, or a guy that's went over 4 and is hitting under 100? Well, the logical answer is kind of go to Sean Bouchard. However, there is a case where it's like, what, this year is not all about winning. It's more about playing the younger kids. So, I mean, there's a debate there. I mean, I really like Hunter Goodman, but I mean, you kind of do need to play Sean Bouchard just a little bit more. I mean, it's not like they're on different contracts or anything, but you do want to at least try to win a game and not, tank on purpose. But at the same time, though, the season's kind of already lost. So you kind of need to play some of the younger players. But Hunter Goodman, at the end of the day, he's not doing so well. Jordan Beck, he went 2 for 4. He got a couple knocks there. The pitching really started off poorly. Peter Lambert, 3 innings, 9 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 strikeouts. threw, it looks like 67 pitches in just a few innings. So, the Giants, they were able to get after him, not to mention they were able to get deep into at bats. There is, the positive is that he didn't walk anybody, but again, they got deep in accounts and they were able to get on base. Anthony Molina, a big shout out to him. He's been pitching a lot better than the start of the season. I know in Arizona in the first few series, he really struggled, but he's been pitching a lot better. He pitched 3 2/3 yesterday, only gave up 2 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. 54 pitches, 35 of them were strikes. And I guess this is also positive too for Lambert, even though he didn't do so well. 42 of his 67 pitches were strikes. So majority of his pitches were strikes. So that's good. But again, the ERA, that tells a different story. Same thing with Molina. Jake Bird, he's, doing okay. 16 out of 23 were strikes. And Justin Lawrence, I think he's starting to fit into that closer role a little bit. So that's nice to see. But it was a little bit too late. It was a little bit of a better loss, but still a loss nonetheless for the Rockies in game 2.
Yeah, it's a little bit of another one of those tough losses. I mean, they gave it a run at the end. I think the big thing that was not the nail in the coffin, but just put the Rockies in a huge hole was that 6-run second inning for the Giants. And like I said, they kind of stuck around and nibbled away that with 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, and then gave a run at it in the 9th inning, but we just came up short. And like you pointed out, we want Jordan Hicks. He's having a great year so far. He's got an electric arm that he is so far making a successful transition from reliever, as he was in St. Louis, to now starter in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
That, it's like they said in Moneyball, I get elevated pitch, that starter's pitch count. I want that starter out by the 4th or 5th inning. A little bit of a harken back to that. It was over, and we talked about this briefly in the pregame show in our studio. It is when you point out Sean Bouchard, he did go 3 for 4 with a run scored, and you had Jordan Beck go 2 for 4 in this game, and of course Hunter Goodman, who's not getting regular bats, did go 0 for 4. Maybe anybody who really wants Hunter Goodman to play more, start a petition to circulate starting Hunter Goodman at first base over Montero. That's a little bit something we can do. I know. But either way, I think at this point, with Nolan Jones and Chris Bryant out, I think it would appear that Bud Black and the coaches have made the decision, or maybe we're probably with input from the front office, they've made the decision to play Beck every day in left field and Montero every day at first base, which makes it seem that unless something goes horribly wrong, Bouchard is going to be the starting right fielder. And when Nolan comes back, they're going to have to make a decision who goes down and who stays. Because if Jordan Beck is going to stay, you're going to want to play him every day, presuming that he's continuing to have solid at bats and drive the ball and continue to get hits. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And if and when, again, my hot prediction is out the window with Chris Bryant, he will not play 145 games this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens to Montero, which I think Goodman would go down. What happens to Montero? It's going to be very interesting to see what happens and changes. But overall, this was a better showing, and of course, also in addition to Hicks being out in the 5th inning, the bullpen had to be used extensively in this game, given the fact they had to use 5 relievers to get out of the game, which I think limited Bob Melvin's options for game 3.
Yeah, when you were talking about the outfield, again, this is a topic for next week when we do the podcast episode, but what are they going to do with the outfield? That's the big question, because not to mention, I mean, I was thinking about this morning because, Zach Veen is starting to get hot in Double-A, and I know, there's some people out there who are like, maybe we shouldn't call him up too early or, promote him to AAA too early. But at the same time, though, you're going to have to call this guy up eventually, either later this year or next year. He's going to be, on the roster probably, barring any injuries. But you're going to have Jordan Beck, who I absolutely like. I think he's going to be fine. I mean, he's having a cold stretch to start the year, which is normal for a rookie. I mean, he's only been in the big leagues for about 10 days. And, what are you going to do with that? Because, Nolan Jones, like you said, is going to come back, soon from that injury. And not to mention Sean Bouchard, he's an outfielder. You can't really, I think he's played a little bit at first base last year, but, the Rockies already have Montero there. Not to mention when Chris Bryant comes back, what are they going to do? And I think they got to make some trades, either like Montero, because he's out of options, so you can't send him down. Again, this is a topic for another time because we don't want to go too deep into it. But they got to. I think they got to make trades, either trade Toglia in AAA, because I don't think Toglia, unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be able to get the playing time that we've all wanted. But at the same time, though, I was looking at this the other day. Toglia in the 2019 draft was drafted, I want to say, above Michael Bush. And Michael Bush is doing pretty well with the Cubs this year. Last time I checked, and so it's just like, and even in college, Toglia was more of a 220, 230, 240 hitter in UCLA. But the problem has remained for him ever since he was in college, and that's striking out. And the Rockies really, they like Toglia, but the problem is that's the problem, strikeouts, and they can't afford that. They need power, and Toglia has power. Not to mention I don't think it's right now. I mean, I'm not sure if he still leads. I mean, maybe I'll check later, or maybe you guys can check in your own free time. But Toglia at one point led the team in home runs this year with 4, and he might still lead the team in home runs. I think Rymack leads it now with 4 or 5. But it's just like, I feel bad for Toglia, but at the same time, though, you're going to have to cut your losses because they need room on the roster eventually at some point. And the Rockies, as frustrating as it is with Chris Bryant, and in some ways you do kind of want him to ride off in the sunset on a good note. They can't trade Chris Bryant because of the contract, and you can't trade. I mean, it's possible the Rockies tried Rymack at the deadline, but he's in the middle of his extension, so you can't really trade him, and you're going to be forced to swallow. Like, if you get rid of Bryant and McMahon, you're going to be swallowing a bunch of money. And the Rockies, they do have money, but the problem is they're not going to be able to, kind of like it kind of works in the NFL the same way. You're not going to be able to spend money in free agency, and so that's the problem. So the Rockies are going to have to, cut somebody. I'm not sure if it's going to be Montero or Toglia or whoever, or they're going to have to make trades, and they're going to have to make some cuts. And I think that it's all about opening up the roster next year for the young kids in the minor leagues, like AAA and AA, especially in AA, especially guys like Zach Bean, Sterling Thompson, Drew Romo, who I think could be a catcher later this year, because I think they're going to probably trade either Diaz and Stallings, or both, maybe. But I think Stallings has an option for next year, so maybe Stallings will be a starting catcher after the All-Star break, and maybe he'll come back next year. But yeah, I think Romo will for sure be on the team next year. But in our notes here, Toglia and Doyle are tied for second with 4 home runs, and that's kind of cool that Doyle, he's starting to get that pop in there, because I remember during the offseason, I'm not going to name this guy because I watch his YouTube videos, but it's a baseball YouTuber, but he mentioned that Doyle was arguably the worst center fielder in baseball. And it's like, offensively, yeah, I mean, he was not good last year, but now it's just like he's hitting 270 with 4 home runs. And yeah, I mean, it's the Rockies, but still, you know, he's playing a little bit better, from last year. So that's something positive. But yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. But moving into the final game here, so today's game 3, the Rockies were able to win this game 9-1. It was a good game. I was able to watch the second half of it for the most part.
Okay. This is in the air.
I don't want to get copywritten. Sorry, folks. But anyways, yeah, I mean, it was a good game for the most part. The Rockies, they jumped on. Was it Wynn that was pitching? Yeah, Keaton Wynn. He's been kind of decent this year, but again, they jumped on him in the 4th inning, 7 runs there. Tacos, that was nice. Yeah, everybody in the lineup hit today except Jordan Beck. He's a start, but yeah, a really good day for Blackman. Both Blackman and Tovar nearly hit for the cycle. They were just a home run away. Both guys got triples. Blackman, I think, has now like 3 triples on the year. 37 years old, and really good to see from him. Let me see here. Yeah, Tovar went 3 for 5. McMahon, he got another knock, hitting 292. Rymack, looking right now, he's probably at this point going to be the Rockies' lone all-star, unless if Diaz continues, because he's hitting 311. So Bouchard, he's 1 for 4, 286. Rogers 1 for 4, 243. So, and then Doyle, again, got a home run today, his 4th of the year. Montero hitting around 200. But, we talked about Quantrill before we started about how, when he was signed here, there was a lot of hope that he could be the Rockies' best pitcher, especially while we wait for Marquis and Senzatella to come back from their Tommy John injuries. And I think Marquez, I saw on his Instagram story a few days ago that I think he's pitching either in the DSL or he's like warming up somewhere. It might be in either. I think it might be Arizona or in Dominican summer leagues or something, or down in South America, that he's starting to warm up a little bit. So that's good to see. It looks like he's starting to get into throwing action. But yeah, Quantrill looked good today especially after his last start. He pitched pretty well like he did in Pittsburgh. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, 92 pitches. ERA is now below 4, 3.94, and he's the Rockies' current best starting pitcher. That's good to see. Victor Vodnik, he's having a nice year. 211, as you can see, and then Jalen Beeks, is pitching 260. So that's nice. All around good game for the Rockies and in their offense. They were able to take 1 out of 3 against the Giants, but still, the record is not pretty. 9-28, 6-12 at home, 6 games under 500. And again, we're not going to go deep into it because this is for the podcast next week. But it's kind of like what we've been seeing for the Rockies this year, where if you don't get swept, you're more than likely to win at least 1 game in that series. And the Rockies have yet to win 3 games in a series, or they won 2 games against the San Diego Padres, a week or 2 ago in Denver, but they have yet to win a series this year. And I think they're the only team in baseball to have yet to win a World Series, not a World Series, a season series. So yeah, it's whatever, and it's yeah, it's unfortunate, but we have a new series coming up against the Rangers, so that's a little bit more gloomy because the Rangers are playing a little bit better than the Giants. The last time I checked, let me double check that. I think, do we have I want to say, do we have a thing yet for tomorrow? Yeah, we do. Pull it up here. Yeah. All right, perfect. Yeah, the Rangers are 22-17, 12-8 on the road. So
I believe John Gray is pitching in the series too.
yeah, first time. I think it'll be the first time at Coors Field since he left the Rockies. So that will be kind of special, but at the same time, though, like a lot of us will be crying crocodile tears tomorrow. He's been good this year. 1-1, 250 ERA, 116 WHIP, 39 innings pitched.
But
actually, kind of. I mean, other than the strikeouts, kind of similar numbers here with Gomber. Other than the strikeouts in the home run totals, but kind of similar numbers in terms of innings pitched and kind of close in WHIP. Gomber actually, again, kind of like with Quantrill, Gomber has actually had a nice start to the year. Just the problem is he hasn't gotten any run support.
that's a problem for most of the Rockies pitchers. I mean, today, good thing for Quantrill today, he got the support that he got. He gave the Rockies, I think it was Patrick Lyon said on Twitter/X, basically what a starter should do. He gave the Rockies a chance. He was excellent today. I gotta say, I've commented this on previous recaps, and I'm still going to say I'm excited that Victor Vodnik is still having a very good year. He's only had 1 bad outing, so that was great to see from him today. But yeah, to have 2 near cycles and a team cycle was pretty awesome to have today.
Yeah.
But this is what we needed to carry us in momentum into the series against the Rangers. Even though the Rangers, let me double check. I got the standings up here. Let me look at the West real quick. Yeah, the Rangers lead the AL West by a game and a half over the Seattle Mariners, who are stumbling.
Mariners.
They are stumbling right now.
Yeah, Mariners are 20-18. They've lost 2 straight. Oakland, hats off to Oakland. 18-21.
Best bullpen in baseball.
Better than the Houston Astros. Who would have thunk?
Well, I'm not complaining about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. I mean, I'd rather see the Astros lose than any day. I mean, I want the Rockies to win, but you get the point. But I mean, and then not to mention their comments about their GM about we're not going to sell, and so it's just like, okay. I mean, I mean it wouldn't. I mean, I'll just say this: it wouldn't shock me if the Astros just shock everyone. It's the Astros, but maybe this is the year that they. I mean, I think Bregman is on a retiring contract or expiring contract, not retiring, expiring contract, and so this deal will be a free agent after this year. So he could move. He could get traded. So that's something to watch out for. But let me see here. for the batting leaders, according to ESPN. So yeah, a nice little view here. Dolis Garcia, he's having a nice year. 8 home runs, 268 versus Rymack. Yeah, Rymack leads the team in home runs with 5. Um, batting average, Jonah Heim, Dolis Garcia. Yeah, so again, it's the Rangers, not surprising, they're off to a really good start. Some key guys on the injured list. Really not a lot of key guys for the Rangers here. They're just a bunch of a lot of their bench guys, are on the bench here. Well, the Rockies. I don't know why they have some of these guys because these guys are prospects. I don't know why they do that, so that's kind of confusing. But
Mm.
um,
Well,
yeah.
well, speaking of prospects, they just demote. I think they did just in fact demote Wyatt Langford back to
Okay.
AAA.
Yeah. Was he? I'm assuming he wasn't doing too well.
He was doing fine just in the
Oh,
first couple
yeah.
series, but he has been struggling as of late.
Yeah. Right now on the money line for the series, Rangers at -185 for those who are interested. I mean, Tom and I, we don't bet, but if you are interested, there
Mhm.
you go. Rockies are plus 155. Right here, according to ESPN Match Projector, 63% go to the Rangers. So, I mean, like right now, it kind of tells me that there's a chance the Rockies do get one game out of this series. But again, I mean, you're playing the Rangers. The Rockies have been playing horribly. And, we don't want to be Mr. Negative, but we're looking at potential sweep here. I mean, it would be nice. I mean, I was telling Tom too, but like it would be the funniest thing in the world. It would be the most Rockies thing ever if the Rockies like came out and like swept the Rangers or like won 2 out of 3 against the Rangers. It would be the most Rockies thing ever after the start that we've had and to win our first series against the defending World Series champions. I'm not gonna make any predictions here. I'm just gonna say, hey, maybe we'll win one. I'll be happy if we win one. And at this point in the year, you're kind of numb to the pain already, and you just want to see some of the younger players like play better at this point. But it would be nice to get a win against the Rangers. But at the same time, though, like I'm fine if the Rockies continue losing. I'm fine with it. I just want to see like Hunter Goodman, Montero play. Doyle obviously will be playing. I just want to see the younger players play, like Jordan Beck as well. But with Nolan Jones and Chris Bryant coming back in the next, probably my guess, the next couple of weeks, because the rehab usually takes about a week, maybe a week and a half, and it's still not official yet. Like they've made no announcement on the rehabbing quite yet. So Jordan Beck will probably be up here until like late May, early June. And then he might get set down depending on how he's doing. At this rate, he's probably going to head back to AAA for more playing time, which I think would be the right decision because you don't want him sitting on the bench while Nolan Jones and Bryant play. But yeah, for Gray Moron, it looks like it's going to be John Gray from Rocky versus Austin Gomber. So that
Mhm.
that'll be, again, it's an interesting matchup. I mean, these guys are former teammates back in 2021, and again, it's very, very, it's kind of a mixed emotions because John Gray really wanted to come back here, but he just decided to move on, and ever since he's moved away from the Rockies, he's been a little bit better, actually quite a bit better. Um, but it's just, again, I feel like the Rockies, they could have definitely used him, but John Gray decided to move on. Kind of like Trevor Story. It's not like these players hated Colorado necessarily. They just decided they wanted to move on. And again, we're not going to go deep into it, but like Trevor Story, you got to feel bad for the guy. I mean, having another season-ending surgery and not being able to play a full season yet in Boston, and people are already booing him and not too happy with Trevor over there. I feel bad for him. And then with John Gray, he was able to win a World Series last year with the Rangers. But yeah, so tomorrow is going to be somewhat of a mixed reactions from me. Like I'll be happy to see John Gray again. I'm happy that he's being successful, but at the same time though, it's just like I feel like the Rockies kind of. I mean, it's not necessarily all their fault because the Rockies, they wanted to bring him back, obviously, and there was mutual interest there. It's just that the Rockies felt like he wasn't worth that much because he had struggled with injuries and his performance wasn't doing all that well. But now he's in an environment where he doesn't have to worry about the high altitude and the pitch is not working well. But again, I'm happy for John and hopefully he has success, but hopefully not tomorrow because I'd like to see the Rockies win. But if John pitches a no hitter against us tomorrow, at least I want to see us at least try and see some of the young kids play. But Tom, do you have any final thoughts as we close up tonight?
Well, just of course, it'll be interesting to see how he does in his first start back at altitude,
Yeah.
because we talk about guys who traveling from altitude, training at altitude, pitching at altitude, whatever the case may be. We'll see how he reacclimates himself to the Mile High City. Um, I am interested to see mostly how they do in the Saturday game because you got the long tenured left-handed veteran Andrew Heaney. The Rockies have had a fair share of issues against lefties this year, so I am
Mm.
intrigued to see how they do against a guy who doesn't have a lefty who doesn't have electric stuff and is, I don't want to say in the his way out of the game, but just as a guy who's been around for a while. So we'll see how that goes. And maybe, just maybe, Dakota Hudson gets his first win on Sunday.
That would be
Hopefully.
nice. Yeah, that would be ideal.
But you're right. It is going to be kind of a mix of emotions. I mean, guys make decisions what they think is the best for their career, whether it's the most money, the team, the future, this, whatever, whatnot.
Mm.
I can't blame John Gray. And heck, he's got a ring. He's got a ring for it. He's got one ring at least for his trophy case and for one of his ring fingers. Maybe he'll get a second one. Who knows?
Yeah.
But good for him. And plus, also, I think he's from Oklahoma, isn't he?
Yeah. Hmm.
So he's closer to home now. So
Yeah. And when you talked about like pitchers going back to Coors Field or going to Coors Field and they kind of fall off. I mean, but the problem is though, John Gray has been one of the best pitchers in Rockies history to pitch at Coors Field because he loved to pitch at Coors Field. And so that's like, it gets me a little bit worried for tomorrow. But again, if he pitches well, I'm happy for him. But
plus, I think he also said he enjoyed pitching in Albuquerque too.
oh yeah, he was a dog. I mean, he's a dog still. I mean, the guy, he's a competitor, and even in Texas, of course, this was before they got the new ballpark, but the Globe Life Field. Now it's Globe Life Park, but Globe Life Field was a very offensive ballpark because remember Joey Gallo would have hit tanks there, and then Nomar Mazara hit that famous, was it 515 or 505-foot home run in like the upper deck, if people remember that clip. Um,
Oh, yeah, of course I do.
yeah, but it's just again, I'm excited to see how well he does, and plus I'm sure he's, I think he's going to be excited to come back here. Not only maybe he'll have a really good chance to win, but just to see his old teammates in the stadium where he made his debut back in 2015, I think, and where he got his complete game shutout in 2016 against San Diego. So that'll be, I think, will be special for him. But for us Rockies fans, we'll be like, we miss you, John. Like, please come back home. But he's having a successful time in Texas right now. So, but I think that will do it for tonight's recap, folks. So, guys, make sure you're staying tuned. Again, like I said earlier, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube, make sure you're subscribed for more Rockies recaps. We got a podcast, I think, coming out next Thursday, I think, in between the Padres and the Giants series when the Rockies are on the road. It'll be, I think, just our third podcast since the start of the year. Well, we did a podcast right before the season started, and then we did one last month. And so we want to make sure we do a little bit more for you guys every, 3 to 4 weeks ish. Just kind of give you guys some updates, what's going on. And plus to talk a little bit longer. If you guys have any questions or comments, we'll be able to answer those as well. But for those who are watching tonight, big shout out to you guys for hanging in there, watching and for commenting on Instagram. And again, sorry we weren't able to get to them tonight. We were more focused on doing the recap. But anyway, folks, hope you have a good night. And as always, go Rockies.